Unloved husbands and wives, work rivals, annoying relatives. In the second half of the 17th century, anyone in France could become a victim of poisoning. It seems that in the brilliant era of the Sun King Louis XIV, people were even sent to the next world out of boredom. It was a strange time of sorcerers and fortune tellers, whose services were used in Versailles as if they were going to the laundry. The apogee of all this madness was the famous affair of the poisons. The French monarch personally supervised the investigation of crimes related to poisoning, and it all started with the horrific story of the Parisian beauty, the Marquise de Brinvilliers. What did she brutally kill her father for? On whom did the court lady conduct experiments with poisons? The Place de l'Hôtel de Ville, located in the very heart of Paris, is always bustling with tourists and locals. This place has always been popular. However, the crowds of people used to gather here for a different reason. From the 14th to the 19th century, when the square was called the Place de Grève, public executions were held there. Until 1830, it served this function. And during the French Revolution, the guillotine was used here for the first time. And the Place de Grève itself, of course, went down in history as the site of executions not only of kings and queens, but also, of course, of witches, heretics, and many other people who were accused of the most heinous crimes. Beheading in France was considered a privileged method of execution. Only aristocrats were executed in this way. The ruthless poisoner Marie-Madeleine, Marquise de Brinvilliers, also belonged to the cream of Parisian society. In the second half of the 17th century, the whole country discussed her crimes. She became the prototype for a whole series of literary villainesses. Among the honored guests at Satan's ball in Bulgakov's novel The Master and Margarita was a marquise who killed her father and her brothers. She is also mentioned in the lines of Hoffmann and Dumas. Moreover, Mikhail Bulgakov greatly downplayed the atrocities of the guest at Volin's ball. According to researchers, the Marquise de Brinvilliers killed not only her relatives, there were many more victims. The aristocratic criminal was born in 1630 in one of the wealthiest and most respected families in Paris. Her father, Antoine, was noble and wealthy, and her mother was related to religious and political figures of the time. And before her death, she asked her husband to raise their 5 children to be God-fearing. In 1651, her father married Marie-Madeleine to the Marquis de Brinvilliers. Her husband was much older than his wife, but was a wealthy man. The marriage of Marie-Madeleine d'Aubray and the Marquis de Brinvilliers amazed even the worldly Parisians. The whole city knew that the spouses were unfaithful to each other. They didn't even try to hide it. Marie-Madeleine's father felt disgraced. He complained to the police about his daughter's dissolute behavior and demanded that the authorities arrest her lover, Captain Godin de Sainte-Croix of the Royal Guard. Antoine d'Aubray got his way. The officer was imprisoned in the Bastille. According to one version, it was there that Sainte-Croix met a certain prisoner who was very knowledgeable about poisons and, thanks to him, mastered the art of making deadly potions. And then, after being released, he shared this knowledge with his mistress. The Marquise de Brinvilliers decided to kill her father. Firstly, to take revenge, and secondly, for the inheritance. By this time, her husband had squandered most of the fortune. But before poisoning her relative, Marie-Madeleine tested the poison on servants and patients at the Hôtel Dieu hospital. The women of the French nobility of that time did indeed visit hospitals, helped the sick, and took care of them. And in the report of the Lieutenant General of the Paris Police, there is information that de Brinvilliers, a beautiful, refined woman, did indeed observe patients as they became ill from the poison she used. How many people the Marquise de Brinvilliers killed during her inhuman experiment is not exactly known. Some historians say around 5, while others count the victims in the dozens. But whatever the case, the doctors did not suspect anything. Marie-Madeleine decided it was time to poison her father. A week before his death, her father invited his daughter and grandchildren to visit. But he was not feeling well, and his condition only worsened. She gave him a mixture of arsenic and toad saliva under the guise of medicine, which was supposed to cause a natural death. And he died quite quickly in the arms of his murderer. The circumstances of Antoine d'Aubray's death also did not raise suspicions, but the inheritance turned out to be not as large as the poisoner had hoped. Moreover, she had to share it. The Marquise de Brinvilliers had 2 older brothers. To get the money, the aristocrat decided to kill them all. Poison was mixed into the brothers' food by bribed servants. Her brothers died almost simultaneously. This should have alerted the investigators, who noticed this strange circumstance, but at the time could not find the slightest evidence of her involvement in the murders. The Marquise de Brinvilliers achieved her goal. She got the family fortune and got rid of the relatives who tried to control her personal life. Her husband left her, which the woman was only too happy about. The turning point in the fate of the aristocratic poisoner was the death of her lover. Captain Godin de Sainte-Croix died in 1675 after a long illness. At the moment of his death, investigators, having searched the house where he lived, noticed a whole range of things that, let's say, raised very serious suspicions for them. One of them, of course, was a box containing letters that Brinvilliers and Sainte-Croix had written to each other, in which they discussed poisons and their effects on human health. After the captain's death, his apartment was sealed. A trusted servant of the Marquise de Brinvilliers tried to break in to retrieve the box. In addition to the compromising letters, it contained the poisons with which the aristocrat had poisoned her relatives. But the lackey failed to do so. The Marquise went on the run. First she went to England, then to Flanders, and hid in a monastery there, where the poisoner was arrested. The trial lasted from April to July 1676. Initially, she said she was not guilty of anything, but during the investigation, she accepted all the charges against her, after which she would be beheaded and her body burned. Marie-Madeleine, Marquise de Brinvilliers, was beheaded in July 1676. All of Paris gathered to watch the execution. The high-profile case of the poisoner from high society shocked France. The country was literally gripped by mass hysteria. Behind almost every death, people suspected someone's malicious intent and the use of poison. Louis XIV introduced a multi-stage system for checking dishes served at the royal table. A whole state campaign began to search for poisoners in high society. They even created a special judicial body, the Chambre Ardente, which dealt with such cases. First and foremost, they began to check all sorts of fortune tellers, healers, and alchemists as potential makers of deadly potions. Thus, detectives came across the adventurer Catherine Monvoisin, who called herself a sorceress. Among her clients were very wealthy and influential people, including Marie-Madeleine, Marquise de Brinvilliers, and the king's favorite, Françoise Athénaïs de Montespan. Monvoisin was tortured. She was ready to accuse anyone and say that they were involved in her actions. She testified against Madame de Montespan, saying that perhaps she wanted to kill the king or her rivals. After getting all the sincere confessions out of her, she was sentenced to death. The all-powerful favorite of the king, the Marquise de Montespan, fell into disgrace. Louis XIV did not severely punish the woman from whom he had children. Other clients of Catherine Monvoisin were less fortunate. The monarch ordered the arrest of Marshal Luxembourg and the exile of the Countess of Bourbon-Saxony from Paris. Historians say that this affair of the poisons had a political subtext above all. Representatives of the French elite used the high-profile trial to strengthen their influence and weaken the positions of their competitors. For example, First Minister Jean-Baptiste Colbert and Secretary of State for War, the Marquis de Louvois, accused each other's supporters of poisoning on false charges. Over 7 years, the Chambre Ardente tried about 400 people. 36 of them were executed. Louis XIV realized that things had gone too far, and that the affair of the poisons could cause irreparable harm to the monarchy. The ruler ordered the trial to be stopped, and all documents of the Chambre Ardente to be destroyed, but copies of the protocols remained in the magistrates and police offices. Thanks to them, the scandalous affair of the poisons could not be erased from French history. What do you think about it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is very important to me. Don't forget to give me a like if you liked it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new episodes. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.